If you're looking for an incredible spot to go birding, hunting, or fly fishing on the Ruby River, this is it. Craig and Martha Woodson left a wonderful legacy in the Ruby River of Montana, the Woodson Ranch. We were lucky enough to visit the ranch and learn how the Ruby Habitat Foundation manages the outreach programs and the land.
So in 1992, Craig and Martha Woodson came up here and purchased this property. We've since added to it a little bit, but it's about a 1,200 acre property now. When Craig and Martha purchased it, it had been kind of a well-run ranch. I mean, by well-run, I kind of mean tired. There was a lot of overgrazing. There were bone yards and things like that you see on typical ranches. So Craig wanted to fix it up, and I think his goal was really in about 10 years to sell it. But in the meantime, enjoy it for some of the things that he liked to do, which included hunting and fishing. The unfortunate thing was, shortly after they bought the place, like within a week, I think, he had a debilitating stroke.
Oh, no.
And he never got to hunt it or fish it the way he had previously. He'd been coming up to Montana for a while to hunt and fish, and finally decided he wanted to buy this place. Bought it, had a stroke, the world changed. And his view on things changed. And I think it kind of changed the calculus a little bit for him on how he wanted to manage the property and what he wanted to do with it. It's one of the kind of complicating things for Craig and Martha was that they had a blended family. They each had kids from a previous marriage. So suddenly, Craig's got this piece of property, and I think he's thinking about his mortality in ways that he hadn't before this stroke. And he realized, well, I better make sure that this doesn't get sold upon my death and subdivided like a lot of these properties do. So he started shopping it around to different land trusts. He ended up settling on the Montana Land Alliance. Montana Land Alliance happens to be the largest land trust in Montana. We have an access program here that welcomes the public. And last year, we had about 1,600 people visit the ranch for various purposes. Whether it was for fishing, there were about 25% of them came to fish, birding, a little bit. The biggest was the fishing. Biggest category of reasons people come is the fishing. But there's folks that come out here to bird, and there's folks that come out to exercise, and we put on some educational programs. We have a wildlife speaker program. But back to Craig and Martha, after 10 years of managing this place and making stewardship decisions that really augmented the property, Craig decided he had settled on Montana Land Alliance, and Montana Land Alliance isn't in the business of owning property. They're in the business of facilitating the placement of conservation easements on private property. So rather than, change their mission to accommodate this sudden acquisition of 1,200 acres, they decided that what they would do is set up a foundation to manage and make stewardship decisions about the property. And that's how Ruby Habitat Foundation started. That was in 2002. Ruby Habitat Foundation has a fairly complicated mission that really, as I mentioned before, boils down to balancing agriculture and wildlife, and then showing people what that can look like. The foundation, we're now in our 20th year, and I think we've done some amazing things out here, particularly with our managed access program. This year we're on track to probably have 2,000 people visit the ranch and see what we've been up to.
Well, now, if you want to come out and visit the ranch and go fishing or go birding, is there a fee structure of some sort to help keep this place going?
So I guess the answer is yes and no. We're a nonprofit, so we don't have a rod fee. If we had a rod fee, that fee would not be tax deductible to whoever paid it. If instead we simply say, you can come out here and go fish, and at some point when you're feeling charitably inclined, write us a check for a donation. Now that's tax deductible. And it has worked out, I would say, swimmingly. Because if we had put the rod fee on there like they do over in Livingston, there's those spring creeks over there that charge, I think, $1.25 to fish per day. That would cap us at $125. If you look at our donations, we average $200 per rod per day. So it's worked out better for us to just leave it open-ended. And I think part of the reason it's successful is because there's so much other stuff going on here besides fishing. Mm-hmm. And if we can spend a little time with each of the guests that comes here, and we can because they're all scheduled and we know when they're coming, sure, and it's a limited number, we can explain what some of those things are, and people realize, fly fishermen are conservationists at heart, and when they realize what some of the other conservation efforts are that are taking place here, they embrace it, and they want to support it in ways that are deeper than $125. I get more requests for volunteers than I can handle, and we get donations that range anywhere from nothing to tens of thousands of dollars, and so it's really heartwarming to be a part of it. I really pride myself on the, I guess, egalitarian aspect of our managed access program. It's not a pay-to-play kind of organization. The door's open to everybody. It works out well. So that's really how we keep our outreach programs afloat, is through donations. But the outreach programs that allow the public to come in here and see this place, that pays for our wildlife speaker series. The wildlife speaker series this year was on June 1, and we had a biologist come out and talk about songbirds. And we had 225 people come out for that event. We provided a free meal. Ruby Valley Brew provided a couple of kegs of beer, which might have added some incentive for people to come out here. But it worked out really well. And it was, that's a fairly expensive thing to feed 225 people. But that's what our outreach program does, and that's supported 100% by the donations that people give from their heart.
Yeah, well, we were actually here on the first. Had we known, I guarantee you Tweety would have showed up.
Yeah, it was an amazing. I learned a lot. Some of the stuff that I learned included, when a rancher hays the fields, like is happening right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of ground nesting birds and stuff can be down in there, and they can get chewed up in the swathers and things like that. But if you go into the field and instead of mowing from the center or from the outside to the inside, if you mow from the inside to the outside, you push those birds out. And it was like this light bulb went off, and you could hear people go, ah. So anyway, there's value in these things that these wildlife speakers, and there's 7 of them around the valley that we help coordinate. But I want to go back to the board, because I think our board helps keep this place unique and special too. And part of the reason is for that is, again, going back to Craig, it was his vision to have a balanced board that included local community members. Our board is comprised of Montana Land Alliance, who actually has the deed to the property, the Woodson family out of deference and honor and respect to Craig and Martha, and local community members. And those three voices create this interesting. It's not a tug of war, but there's decisions that get made, and each of those entities brings a different perspective to the table. There are ranchers on that board, and they're influential ranchers within the valley, and they talk to other ranchers, and we are starting to see more conservation easements happening in this valley, which is sort of I think maybe an underplayed card. I think we are doing something here for the valley that not everybody realizes is going to have a long-term benefit. The people, when you ask the people in Sheridan what they want to see preserved, a lot of it has to do with open space and view shed. And this is one way to do it. It's a difficult way to do it, by influencing people over time to get them to make decisions about their property that have perpetual impact. But that's what we're doing, and it's fun to be a part of that. So
just to hear the story is fun. I mean, it is heartwarming, you know. I mean, there's so many places that we've gone to fish, and we were there, or I was there however many years ago, and you go back through, and now there's 2 or 3 more cabins, or a land development of some sort, or, you know, stuff that just you know there's some level of negative impact to the watershed and everything else, and yeah, it's nice to know that it actually can work. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's really neat to be a part of it.
Dave was nice enough to take the time to drive around the property with us, and this is the beautiful Woodson home.
Come on, jump again.
Yeah, good luck seeing that again.
Yeah, right.
I've sat there with my camera ready to snap for minutes, and then you'd say, okay, I give up, and then they jump.
Exactly.
But dams control that high water a lot of times and don't let the cottonwoods spread out like they used to. So there's just not as many young cottonwoods. You don't see very many young ones. You see these great big old ones in places, and they're kind of falling apart and
Sure.
tipping over.
This is the ruby.
This is the ruby.
They have picnic areas throughout the property as well, depending on what part of the river you're fishing.
Stop.
So that babies, I tell you, they are scary animals. I mean, they're beautiful and I love to see them, but I don't want to mess with them.
No, you don't want to be on the wrong side of them. This place gets really almost spooky with moose in October. The males will come down from the hills for the rut.
Yeah.
And last year, there was one day when I counted 16 moose on the property.
Oh my gosh.
And some of them are these enormous bulls that you just don't see the rest of the year. Oh yeah, we always see just a couple out here until September.
And there you got a bunch of pronghorns sitting out in the field.
Yeah.
The Heritage Apple Orchard has over 200 trees. They grafted leaf buds from 17 different sites in the Ruby Valley, and they have 13 varieties from old-growth trees. Over the last 5 years, Ruby Habitat Foundation's Managed Access Program has welcomed over 7,000 people for a myriad of purposes, including fly fishing, birding, education, hunting ducks and deer, among other aims. Few private properties can say the same. If you'd like to donate or get additional information about Ruby Habitat Foundation, you can contact them at their website, rubyhabitat.org. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.